and welcome back to Vinyl Friday, where I go through my records in alphabetical order, like a big nerd, or from your perspective, alphabetical order like a big nerd, and talk about what I love. The last couple of weeks we've been in the Crosby, Stills Nash Extended Universe, and this week we're staying firmly in the Crosby, Stills Nash Extended Universe with this album, 1977's CSN.
Editor Nancy here. I would just like to reassure any newcomers to the channel that I do cover other albums. This isn't just a Crosby, Stills Nash exclusive weekly show. We will at some point be exiting the Crosbyverse. I'll be picking Rubber Soul back up in a few weeks' time.
Here's a little bit of what's on this album.
Trying to give the light the sway. And it gets harder as you get older. Hey, you never know what she's decided. And I am high above the altar. High above the altar. You're the star. I see you in the morning.
And my personal favorite on this album,
In my dreams, I can see, I can see the love that could be.
perhaps ironically, I won't be doing my favorite song on this album today. I'll be doing my second favorite song. It goes like this. If you'll believe it, this song was the band's biggest charting hit, despite having some incredible songs that we've explored in previous weeks, like Woodstock, like Sweet Judy Blue Eyes,
Drill me to the marrow.
like Teach Your Children, like Our House. This one is the highest charting song. But, you know, I've had a Stephen Stills song, I've had a David Crosby song, I've even had a Joni Mitchell song. I felt like maybe it was time for some Graham Nash. So how this song came about is actually a pretty interesting story. As I'm not well versed in the art of storytelling, I think we should get our storyteller in here to tell that story for you. Graham Nash was in Hawaii. He's visiting a friend. He's got to go to the airport to get on a plane and fly somewhere. And his friend says to him, "You're a big shot songwriter. I bet you can't write a song in 20 minutes before you go to the airport." And Graham was like, "Hold my beer. How much do you want to bet?" His friend said about $500, and Graham Nash sat down at the piano and won himself not only $500, but also Crosby, Stills Nash's biggest charting hit. Well done, Graham Nash. I moved around a lot as a kid. By the time we moved back to New Zealand, I'd been to a lot of schools in several different countries. I was 14 and I kind of just gave up on learning how to socialize with kids in yet another country. I didn't really have a lot of friends, not because people didn't want to be friends with me, but because I felt like I'd put a lot of work into making friends at my previous school, and I really missed them all. One of those friends was my cousin. She and I were really, really close. And we used to send each other mixed CDs by post because, you know, it felt kind of quaint, but also because we didn't have Spotify, so we couldn't like make playlists for each other. So every time we discovered a new song that we really liked, we would find a way to acquire it on the high seas, burn it to a CD, go to the post office, and mail it across the world. In retrospect, that seems a very poetic way to share music with someone. This song, Just a Song Before I Go, was on one of the mixtapes that my cousin made for me. This is the first album that Crosby, Stills Nash had done together since they worked together in 1970. So there was like a 7-year gap there. He did some solo work, he did some solo work, he did some solo work, he did a project with him, he did a project with Young, who's not on this one. Basically, they've played in almost every permutation except this one, so they came back together. I do really love this song. It's so simple and so short and so very easy listening, and it's very easy to write it off for those reasons. It's very soft rock, it's very 1977. However, I think that to write it off would be a mistake. Let's get into why. Given that this is such a simple song, probably in part due to the fact that he only had 20 minutes to write it, so 10 minutes for verses, 10 minutes for choruses, and we're done. There's no middle eight, there are no bridges. It leans really heavily on the arrangement to be an interesting song. From the beginning of the song to the end, it's almost entirely the same instruments, but by the end of the song, it sounds almost like an entirely different song in terms of the energy level. What they do in order to create that energy is, bear with me, they start the song emphasizing lower frequency sounds, and as the song gets bigger, they open up more and more high frequency sounds. It gives the illusion of being bigger without necessarily increasing the volume. Here's what I mean when I'm talking about frequencies. I'm gonna do a frequency sweep here. So when I start talking, right about here, I've filtered out the high frequency sounds. We've isolated the lower frequency sounds of my voice. Now let's move to the middle frequency. These are some middle frequency ranges. We're looking at between, say, 500 hertz and 800 hertz. Now we're gonna move up. These are the high frequency sounds. So when I say that they're adding these higher frequency sounds, it's this area that they're opening up, and that makes the song sound bigger and wider and better. Let's break it down into its constituent parts. We'll start with the drums. So a kick drum is a low frequency sound. This is what a kick drum sounds like. A snare is a higher frequency sound. Here's what a snare sounds like. And your cymbals are your high frequency sounds. Here's what your cymbals sound like. First, the snare isn't being played fully, it's just a rim shot. As a reminder, this is what a rim shot is. This is a rim shot.
I want a rim shot, ay, diggy diggy.
So it's more of a click than a smack. As we move into the chorus, the drummer will go from playing rim shots to playing full snare hits. We'll have a whole lot more hi-hat, there will be more guitar, and the keys will move higher in the register, so we'll start to hear some higher keyboard notes. Let's jump in with the piano correspondent now, and she can show you what I mean about playing everything up an octave. Hello! Because I haven't entirely figured out how to focus this thing yet, my head has to be right here to be in focus, see? No good. When we're talking about playing everything up an octave, what I mean is that in the first verse, all of the keyboard work is happening here. Whereas in later verses, it's happening up here. We've moved this up here. A lot of the accents at the chorus that the keyboard's playing are up here. But they're still leaving space for the next chorus to be even bigger. The main thing that differentiates this chorus from the verse before it is that there is this lovely guitar that just blooms outwards and washes over the whole song. I love it. Here comes the guitar. Now listen to how much bigger the drums are. It goes from that one click to one smack, one smack. That doesn't really support my point about frequencies, but we will come back to that. The guitar part that's coming in, those are higher notes, higher frequency. I'm really gonna dig into that guitar part shortly because I love it so much. By the time we get to the second chorus, this is the high point of the song. This is where everything comes together. The drums, which are quite sedate in the first chorus, you've just got some very sparse hi-hat, snare. In the last chorus, have these big cymbal hits at the top of every bar.
Going through security.
The acoustic guitar part is busier and it's playing on the higher strings. The keyboard is playing an octave higher again. So let's compare and contrast chorus 1 against chorus 2. Here's chorus 1. Sparse drums.
When the shows were over.
Not much keys, chill acoustic guitar, beautiful electric guitar part. Here's chorus 2.
Going through security.
Listen to those high keyboard accents. Bling.
Me and love.
Oh, the guitars are busier, the keys are higher, the guitars are higher. We're finally using our cymbals, which brings me to my point about higher frequencies. So your higher frequency sounds, your tss, ksh, those are coming from your cymbals. The drummer has specifically chosen not to use so many of the high frequency sounds at the beginning of the song so that he can unveil them majestically at the end of the song. And that is what makes the song sound so much bigger at the end. They take an incredibly simple structure to a song and strip it to nothing in the beginning so that there's room to just add and add and add, and the upper frequencies until the end sounds quite big, even though it's the same instruments and they're not necessarily playing that much louder. Let's get to what will probably be my favorite part of this episode when I'm editing it later. Thanks, editing Nancy. And that is, why is this song beautiful? That's the reason I love this song. I think that it is a gorgeous piece of music. So the first thing, the chords are very jazzy. We're going to return to the piano correspondent who's going to tell you a little bit more about these jazzy chords. So here's why the chords in this song are so pretty. Here's what they would sound like if he played them straight. But he's using what are called upper extensions. Okay, so when you play a chord, 3 notes, that's F sharp minor. When you're playing upper extensions, it means that you're adding extra notes to that original 3 notes. Here's what it would sound like if he played it straight. But here's what it sounds like with these upper extensions. And that's because to this chord he's added this note, to this chord he's added this note, to this chord he's added this note, to this chord he's added this one. And that makes the song sound a little bit jazzier. You add these notes and it starts to take on completely different tones, colors, feelings, like this. Watch. All of those things make the song sound a little bit more mature. For instance, one of the guitar parts at the chorus goes like this. So this is the chord, and the guitar's going. So many of those notes exist outside of the defining chord. Those little accents are what make this song beautiful. I'm gonna play through with the recording. I'll play the root note and then what the upper extension sounds like. You'll see what I mean. It doesn't sound like it belongs in the chord, but when you play them all together, it just sounds really, really pretty. Here we go. Ta-da! Jazz hands, because they're jazz chords. The second thing is this this guitar part, which honestly makes me feel like my heart is just swelling, like it's gonna just expand outwards until my ribs split open. That was gruesome. Okay, so we've covered that the chords are lovely. Chords are lovely. However, the guitar is doing 2 things that just kick it up to the next level. The first is the picking pattern. It's basically this. Something like that. So he's not just playing, but breaking it apart into these like little mini arpeggios. Things, just letting the notes ring makes it just that little bit prettier. Here it is in the recording. That on its own is really pretty. However, I believe they're using a magical little thing called chorus, which takes a guitar from this sound to this sound. Oh, and we're underwater. I have a real soft spot for chorus. Again, I'm gonna go into synesthesia land a little bit. It sounds like crystals. It sounds like shards of glass. It sounds like light being split apart in a prism. You see the crystals? Ooh. Chorus was pretty popular in the late 70s going into the 80s. In case it's not really clear what chorus sounds like, here's an opportunity for a montage. Here we go! You take these beautiful chords, you add a lovely picking pattern, and then you throw some chorus on top of that. I'm a sucker for that. They do some cool stuff in the arrangement. The individual instrument parts are just... Those are my reasons why I think it's a beautiful song. Good work, Graham Nash. Not to be a bummer, but I think that Graham Nash is actually, of the 3 of them, Of the 4 of them, 5 if you're counting Jody, probably the least talented songwriter.
I've been doing this for over 60 years.
His songs are a lot more straightforward. Having said that, they're also the more accessible ones that people seem to really love, so I don't know, maybe I'm just a snob.
Question for the community for this week is, who do you think is the best songwriter of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young? I'm not going to include Joni because obviously she would blow them out of the water, but of Crosby, Stills and Nash, who do you think is the MVP? Duke it out in the comments. I would love to know what you think.
That's it from me. If you would like to support any of the strange things that I enjoy doing and sharing with people, I will add a link in the description for my Buy Me a Coffee page. You're welcome to make a donation if you wish, but don't feel obliged. Thank you to everybody who has made a donation. I will be going record shopping shortly, and I will report back. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you here next week. Have a great weekend! I'm gonna play through with the chorus. Wow, I'm really out of focus.